Impromptu de ce jour, jeudi. Nous sommes jeudi, il est 19 heures sur ma time zone, mais il est une autre heure dans une autre time zone et ce soir, je dialogue avec Angel, my friend. In English, we're going to speak in English, or maybe we're going to speak in French. We're going to improvise a dialogue about freedom. On va parler de la liberté. Alors je regarde si Angel is with me somewhere. I'm gonna invite him to come and join me on the screen. I sent you a little invitation, Angel. It's your time to knock on my door and you will see me immediately and you will share the screen with me. The Sanctuary, New York, it's you. Do you see me? Welcome on this dialogue. Welcome.
Here I am.
Welcome.
That works perfectly.
Very smoothly. I knew it. I knew.
Yes, we did it.
How are you, Angel?
I'm really good. I'm very happy to be with you. I feel we haven't connected in a long time, aside from 5 minutes ago to prepare this call, but I'm very happy to be here. Yeah, and we had a very fun conversation, which lighted my heart up.
Oh, very nice. I'm so happy. I'm so happy too. And I really like the subject we chose together, or you chose, and we said, okay, we're going to talk about freedom. What we must know is that a few days before a few days or weeks, I forgot, I talked about freedom with a woman. And during this festival that I improvise, I like to invent some connection with women and men to see what we have in common, what we can share, and how we can see each other and see how we can go very far away from each other in some conversation or sometimes very closely. So the whole thing is just to show the diversity of our hearts. And freedom, obviously, it's a human thing. It's a world thing. So I wanted to invite you and share my heart and your heart with you and see where we're going to go in this improvisation.
I'm excited. I love this subject. We can talk for days about it.
yeah, exactly. We could definitely talk for that. And the thing is that we only have, it's good. We have 45 minutes in front of us, so it's quite good for an improv. But obviously we could do like a festival, a few days festival about it. So Angel, what are we going to share now? What comes to your mind? I mean, it's an intuitive dialogue. So we just see ideas and sensation popping up in our minds right now. Why talking about freedom now?
Well, you know, when we discuss that theme and potentially talking about it, you know, the first thing that came to my mind is very often it's a question of perspective. And when I say that, I mean, am I privileged or am I not privileged? And when we talk about freedom or the lack of freedom or the restriction of freedom, it's very different for me to speak about it that if I were a person of color, if I was Native American, if I was oppressed and in a jail right now because of my political views or sexual preferences or things like that. And I think as a privileged person, it's hard to talk about it because I might talk about where I feel my freedom is restricted, but what is it in the scale of people that are really experiencing lack of freedom? And obviously, you know, the pandemic and what happened, you know, brought all of the scene. People feel like, oh, I'm being forced to wear a mask, for example, or I'm being forced to stay in my home and quarantine. And very often when I sit with it, it's like, oh my God, how privileged you are that this is the only restriction of freedom that you're experiencing. And how incredible that it makes you so angry and vocal about it. And not that, you know, obviously we can't compare, you know, really freedom also in the absolute. It's like comparing broken hearts, you know, oh, you're broken heart, I'm broken hearted, you know, which one is suffering the most, you know, at the end of the day, it's your experience. So I want to honor that. I want to honor, you know, what you're feeling. But I think for me, because of, you know, the work we do here and the people I talk and I'm in contact with, I witness that lack of freedom in so many people that is on a whole different scale than my maybe lack of freedom. And maybe also, I just want to put that also in the introduction, maybe what I considered when I consider myself to be free before maybe being forced to put a mask or being in a pandemic or things like that, was I really free? Was I really free? You know, I'm in a system, I'm part of a country, I'm part of a society, I'm part of a political system, I'm part of a family lineage, I'm part of my ancestry, you know. So it's a difficult thing because of that. And that's why I think, you know, we could go so many ways here, but I just wanted to put it there because I want to acknowledge people there, like whatever I'm going to say, that I don't forget that there's people that are truly don't experience it in a way that really is highly limited for their life.
Yeah, I really like the way you put it, to start with this idea of the perspective. And when I listen to you and this perspective aspect, first, it's really to say it in another way. It's like, what is your reference of freedom, of being free? What is the bottom line? And with an image, I would say, in which kind of cage are you? Is the cage like this, like this, like this for you? For me, maybe I feel in a cage like that, but the same cage for another person would be actually bigger, because or even shorter, you know. It's and for me, when I listen to you, I would say it in another way, that it's all about what's the starting point, and as you said, the condition, and what's the first state from which you one day say, I don't feel free anymore, or, you know. And
yes, and you, I mean, obviously, you know, I know you come from different culture, cross culture, you know, and you have different blood in your veins, and you're a woman, you know, so your experience is going to be very different than me, you know, as a white male. And you know, so even us trying to have a conversation, we are coming with this different size, you know, with this different size of our own gels, you know, and all of that. But at the end of the day, also, I think what's limiting me more, you know, my lack of freedom is more what's in my path, what's blocking me from experiencing joy, from experiencing love. You know, that's where we can go, you know, but we should never forget also the reality of this incarnation, this 3D life that we are living in, which is where maybe we can see it more obviously, and we can scream and be angry about it. But in truth, really, very often, aside from that, you have the keys to your own jail, you know, and sometimes they are hard to find, you know, what's going to liberate you, what's going to bring you into really true liberation, and what we call freedom here.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, the fact that we are in this pandemic, all of us, and when we compare countries, and yeah, for me, I'm from France and from Madagascar, and compare how they deal with it, how they pass the obstacles and everything, just from these two different countries. But obviously, if you compare all of them, all of the world, it's so, for me, it's very confusing to see how we deal with this sensation of being in prison, in lockdown, or being free, or breaking the cage, and how politically they do it, and how as a society we do it, and all this. It's very there is no equality there, I think, and this is also why it's confusing, and the definition of freedom is so difficult, because what I would call being free is maybe for you, oh, you're definitely alienated in your own way. You know, some people from Africa, and I know that, would say, some country that I know would say that they feel when they see me living, obviously I have maybe more money, but they feel I'm totally alienated by some conditions that for me I don't see as alienation.
Yeah. And very often when I think for myself, when did I felt maybe free, or what was that first experience of it? Looking back, it's probably my childhood, you know, as a little child, because when we look at child, they are very free, they are playful, they are not burdened yet by the turmoil of the world. They haven't been maybe yet, you know, traumatized by some event that happened in their life. So there is that freedom in the child, you know, that is beautiful. But if I was a black child, or if I was a non-binary child that maybe is born in a male body but identified as a woman, vice versa, maybe my experience, even as a child, would already be restricted freedom because I would not be safe to walk in the street. I might not be safe at school. I might not even be safe in my own home with my own parents to be who I am and to express that. So my experience of freedom might have been restricted very early, before I even come out by the definition of society of who I should be. And very often, I think that's where we struggle with this idea of freedom. It's like looking at really that, and that's usually what calls people into transformation and healing. It's this exploration of a part of me that feels trapped, that doesn't feel free. What is that part in me that feels, jailed? Can I free that? Am I safe to do it? Oh, I'm going to do it. Where am I going to do it? Is my community going to allow me to do it? So,
exactly.
There's so much there also when we think of it.
I have definitely. We sometimes feel in front of a wall, a big wall, because where is the key? What is even the key to even unlock something that's so huge? Because as you say, when you tell me about the kid, first when you spoke about the kid, I said, oh my God, that's the key. That would be a definition. To be free is to find, to meet with this kid again, the inner child. But it's not that simple, because right after that you said that it depends which child, because there are some children that are really trapped in some conditions, some society, some cultural, sexual aspects. So it's not that, oh yeah, look for your inner child, come on. It's not that simple. The recipe is not so simple. So it's so subtle. The very subtlety about this freedom is very subtle. And when I listen to you, I also have the image of scale. It's all about scale. À quelle échelle, hein? Scale, c'est ça? Scale.
Yes, scale, yeah.
Are we about this freedom, inner freedom, outside freedom? It's not like we can be not in the lockdown, not in the pandemic, but we were locked down inside, like inner limited beliefs, like inner obstacles. So for me, how do you deal with the inner obstacles and the outdoor or outside obstacles? When they're added to each other, how can we do that? It's double difficult.
That's a good, like a card game. It's a bit like a card game. So you're given cards when you're born, a game, and we're all given different cards, and some have a good game and some have a difficult game. So there's obviously that. If I'm born in a country that's at war, it doesn't really matter my color or my gender or any of that. I'm going to be born into a place of, war. If I am born into poverty, millions of children, even in the US, don't eat every day. I live in poverty, and they might be born into that. So what I'm handed when I'm born is obviously going to be very different already, just to start with. And then there is my capacity to play the game, to use my cards to the best of my ability. And very often that's, I think, where the idea of community, supporting community can come into play. Because yes, I might be born with not a good game, but I might have people playing with me that help me make the best out of it. And when I feel that, then I connect to obviously something that has been said, in many spiritual traditions, which is, I cannot be free until you are free. My freedom, in fact, is illusional because I live in relations. I can only be free once every being on this planet are free. And it might be hard to feel that if I am wounded, because I'm already such in a state of alert and trauma that survival very often disconnects you from the community, because it's just about your life. You're in this corner, But it's the goal, I feel. It's the goal, It's like, can I offer that? Can my freedom and my liberation also liberate others? Or does my freedom impact others to less freedom? My freedom to consume, is this creating, slavery in Asia because people are making my stuff are basically underpaid? Does my freedom to, not care about what's happening in the collective? Is it impacting others that maybe don't have the same access, don't have good food, good health, and so they're more at risk than me, for example, during a pandemic? And I need always to ponder that. I always need to stay in relations to not just how free I am, but how free is the system and how I'm participating or not in it. You know, and as a privileged person, we need to ask ourselves that, because we have the tools and we have space to work on that and not just surviving, you know, not just daily survival.
I understand. You're basically talking about interdependence also,
yes,
the consciousness of interdependence and the responsibility of using our freedom in a certain way or not. We have this large way of using our actions on this world, because we can be more. Talking about me, my French side is maybe more privileged than my Madagascar side. So how can I deal with it in my daily life to affect other people's freedom in a certain way and not eat their freedom because I want to enjoy my freedom? And it's really about this proverb in French, and it's not just in French. Ma liberté commence là où s'arrête. Ma liberté s'arrête là où commence celle des autres. How would we say this in French? My freedom starts.
My freedom starts where the freedom of others end. Yeah, so that's where we connect.
Yeah, and actually, in French we say my freedom stops where the other freedom starts, but I don't really like the stop and start, because it's overlaps. It's not start, and there is no border between my freedom. I will stop being free because you won't be. But it's not limited. It's not that way. It's overlapping. It's there are threads, and we build something together. We overlap everything. I don't know what you. It's very difficult to create this net of free.
And it's mainly, you know, it's mainly because we've lost our connections with each other. We forgot that we are in a relationship. If you think of a forest and trees, we can often look at the wilderness, you know, as this expression of freedom. Like, you know, the bear in the mountain is free, you know, but is she? She is in relation. She depends of the weather, of finding prey for eating, of finding cover and shelter in the winter. She, you know, rely on many other beings out there to experience her freedom. And her own freedom can never come at the cost of the freedom of others, because then the system is going to eliminate that bear if she starts destroying all the prey and there's nothing left to eat. Because she just say, well, I'm free to do whatever I want because I'm the most powerful animal right here and I don't have any predators. We can see that there's a limit to it. And nature does that very, very well. It's always in relations. Any tree in the forest, we can see, oh, it's very free. There's no restriction there, but it's in relations. It's in relations always. But we are such in an individualistic society, you know, and not even culture, because I don't think, you know, Francis Weller, that was on an interview with me a few days ago, said, well, we don't have a culture because a culture requires a rite of passages and songs and poetry and creation stories. And he said, we are a society. We don't have that uniformity that a culture has. So in this society that we are living in, we are very individualistic. And because we learn that at school, by being graded between each other. Some are better, some are less than others. We learn that in our social classes and how we relate to each other. I learned that through money and the power I have over others. So we are deeply framed and colonized inside our bodies, and we have deeply colonized mind on the way we see each other's. And that view of colonization in general, which have been going on for hundreds of years, is a view that is embedded into separation, into taking first and then maybe seeing what's left. Freedom, wilderness, nature doesn't work that way. It's always in relation. There's always a communication there. And maybe that's more freedom, but maybe also that means that I need to willingly accept that I will never be free because I'm part of a system that I
Angel,
rely
that's
on,
why.
you know?
Exactly. Angel, when you say, suddenly when you talk, it came to my mind, maybe it's not about freedom. It's just about relationship. Maybe we should give up a certain time. I love words, you know my love for words. And I really think words are best tools for us to shift. And when you talked and you said freedom, freedom, and then you said relation, relation, I said, maybe we should give up a little bit this freedom word to say relationship. And also when you talked about we are free at the cost of, at the cost of the other. I really felt some people, some elements of the nature has to pay for us to say, yeah, I'm free, as if it was the best religion ever to want to be free. Maybe we should just do this exercise of giving up this freedom word, which I love at the beginning. When I talked to you, suddenly I said, maybe I should just put it in a drawer for a while and just say, I want to be in a relationship. Yes. How? This is my ideal. And not thinking about free, but relationship. There wouldn't, if I put myself in this frame, this system of the relationship ideal instead of freedom ideal, I will not make people pay for
not only, and it's not even I want to be in a relationship, it's that I want to remember that I am. Because we always are. We forgot.
Yeah.
We forgot. So it's like, I can't really say, oh, I should. No, I am. And we are experiencing it with, with climate change, with the pandemic, with the collapse of our, social systems, health system and all of that. We can see that we're in a relationship. And I can't even go, at the middle of the wilderness and live in a hut, but I'm going to be dependent anyway of the system. So I can look at the great whales swimming in the oceans, the great eagles flying in the sky, and see that as a symbol of the ultimate dream of freedom. But it's not what it is. They are in relation. They can only live through a system. Even the earth, the whole planet is not free because, in 4.5 billion years, the sun is going to explode and swallow this earth. And bring it to annihilations. So is the earth even free? Even that solar system at some point is going, to collapse on itself. So it's always within a system. And I guess, it brings the question of free will and God, the creator, whatever is moving that.
Is it written? Yeah. All written?
Maybe that's the only level of full freedom, if we see it as a God that, decide things, and that's not how I see it. But maybe, that notion of freedom, like you said, is in those relations, but also in the movement. It is fluid. It is not a state that I am in. Exactly. It's alive. Yeah. It's alive,
It's moving. And because it's holistic. And to be free, if it exists, if it makes sense, because suddenly I'm thinking, does it make sense to speak about freedom? Maybe it's an illusion, and we need to pass this. But when you talked about the solar system, it's really a good way because the Earth is free to turn around the sun, like this is freedom. But no, there is a matrix, and it's beautiful. And it works because for now we are not collapsing against Venus or Mars for now because
she's not even free to turn around the sun. She's under the rule of gravity. Exactly. Gravity is what makes us stay where she is, and she cannot go somewhere else. She cannot get closer. She just have to. And even the beautiful shape of this, rotation around the sun every year is through outside forces, something bigger than her, something that's beyond her. And you can see that. You can look at me in my tiny, tiny life as a little ant on this planet, and then you can start zooming in the macrocosm, and you can see that every layer has an outer layer that is holding it, that is keeping it together, that is making it evolve, that is guiding it. And I think that's what I'm calling, when I talk about mind freedom, it's like, what are those other forces that are wiser because I've been here longer, because they go slower? What can they teach me? So I can embrace that And maybe my freedom is that embracing of my unknowingness, my not knowing, my little piece of life that is so quick on the scale of the earth, you know, and it's humbling. And I think any, you know, Native American, you know, they practice that a lot, but they say that anything that's humbling you usually is the highest wisdom. Anything that brings you on your knees is the highest freedom. It's not when you jump around and scream with your arms open, I'm free. No, it's maybe when you're down on your knees in the collapse of your own self, that maybe there's a gateway into a different kind of freedom, a different kind of liberation.
Different kind. Definitely, I feel that this is a different kind of freedom. It's way far away from the old definition, the capitalistic definition. And when I listened to you, I really felt also this being free is maybe being in harmony with the cosmos. And the cosmos has a rule. There are laws of the cosmos. And I didn't see the Earth going on a protest against the Sun or Venus or Mars saying, give my turn, I want to turn faster, whatever. And nobody, you know, but we as free will person, and we have the will. And what do we do with this will? And as you say, I like when you said the humbling, because to use this will to be humble, it's like what, to use a will to be humble. Well, we have the will, and there might be a battle sometime between our will, our capitalistic or Western will, and this humility that brings us back to earth. And humility comes from humus, to be on earth, and to accept, to just surrender to the fact that we are part of life and part of this cosmos and part of these laws, of natural laws. And
yes, which means really, when you really connect to that notion of interdependence and relations, like we witness sometimes easily in nature, which is quite broken in our societies, there is that notion of service. Something that's beyond me, something that I do that is not about me, that is about the greater collective, that is about, you know, maybe my children, the next 7 generations, you know, something that goes beyond just my own life. And nature is really good at doing that. And we are it. We are part of it. You know, we have separated, but we're still part of it. So we carry those capacities to care. And therefore, I cannot really reflect and scream about voice on Facebook about my lack of freedom if I do not take a pause first and witness the collective, the suffering that is there, maybe the lack of freedom that is there, and then come from that voice, you know. And obviously, you know, if I have access to a computer, if I'm able to voice my opinion on Facebook, I'm probably pretty free compared to many people on this planet, because I probably have money, I probably have a computer, internet access, I probably have enough education to be able to write and read. So, you know, it's easy to see freedom just from our perspective. My grandfather probably would have had a very different opinion on that, because he went to fight at 18 years old for World War II. So he experienced, you know, Nazi Germany, and he experienced the liberations, you know, of that. And so his experience of freedom, when I was talking to him about it, is like, you have an easy life. You have a lot of freedom. And he would probably laugh today that if I consider that wearing a mask or not being able to travel for a certain amount of time is a restriction of my freedom. He would probably say, well, you don't really know what restriction of freedom is about, you know, because I'm privileged. How privileged it is that I could travel, you know, 5 times a year, you know, until last year. You know, many people have never traveled and will never take a plane in their whole life. So I always need to stay in touch with that, you know, because I think then it can inform what I'm saying in a much more caring way for the others. Like, be mindful to what I say, how it can be perceived from someone that's in the place of lack of freedom, in the place of oppression, might perceive my words. Oh, this is just, you know, sometimes you read people say, oh, this is your reality because you created it. You know, you can create another reality. Well, tell that to the person that jail, you know, in jail in an oppressive country, that is, you know, he manifested his own jailing because he was born in an oppressive system. You know, we have to be careful to really bring compassion in our words, and very often just slow down a lot before we talk and we speak and we express it.
React.
And realize the amount of work then that I'm probably called to do. Like, then if I see that, what am I going to do about it? Because that's my freedom. My freedom comes in my act, in my choice of acting. I can decide to do what I want to do. I can tackle that issues or close my eyes. I can open my heart to others or close it. I can stay stuck in my privilege or try to decolonize my mind and my body during my whole life.
Nice.
So the choice is there. It's that we are free being, you know, in that aspect. I decide what am I going to do about it or not. There is freedom there in the next step I can take very
conscious
often.
Choice.
Yeah, my conscious choice. That's my freedom. Do I care? Do I don't care? Do maybe I thought I was caring and I realized I did not because I didn't know about certain issues. I didn't know about my privilege. I never experienced fear when I walk in the street because I'm white. So I will never walk in a black body. I'll never fully understand what it is to walk in a black body. But that should not prevent me to really sit with that and what it means maybe. And what can I do about it? Where do I perpetuate the systems of oppression that restrict freedom for others? What am I going to do about it? That excites me. That's where I feel I have power, you know, maybe a tiny power, but maybe I can do things a little bit differently next time.
It's crazy how you realize that you are in this body, you are in this life, you have to deal with it, you do it what you do, and you constantly have the opportunity to confront the other and to try to put yourself in other people's shoes. And I think it's beautiful all the time to be so me, and also to be invited to not identify to other people, but to understand them and try to create an harmony or a balance between all these situations, all these conditions. And obviously we don't want to make everybody being a clone or having the same life, so it's equal, so you have the same amount of money, the same house, the same type of society. So obviously we don't want to conform everything. We love this diversity and everything, and at the same time, there is like a paradox here. There is a paradox in this.
It is tricky. It is, you know, it is difficult to explore that theme, especially because we are in a society of me.
Yeah.
You know, that's literally what we've been raised in, what's around me. And it doesn't matter if you're in a spiritual community or not, it's everywhere. And I need to be conscious of that, you know, and really, where am I going to dedicate my energies or my days? And is that for something that may be open to different type of relations with each others, different type of communities, different type of connection to this planet that is alive. You know, so that's where, my free choice is really important. And the society, you know, very often is inviting us to close our eyes to that. Like, or we might even feel so overwhelmed because it looks like the problem is so big, you know, and so out of reach to my little life that I can do nothing about it. And that's also something we learned. We learned that we don't have power because our power was taken away, you know,
exactly.
by our education system, by so many things. So it's a difficult process to remember, this longing for a freedom that is maybe very different than the one I've learned, the what I think it should look like, that is really, really in relations, that is really in giving and service, and that really is in humbling to something much bigger, you know, so I can maybe hear the wisdom of those trees, of this planet that is trying to pierce here, and I can hear those voices and then infuse my actions from that place. So it's not about me anymore. It's about the collective. How beautiful, you know, if even I was able to do that all the time, you know, but
Oh my
I
God,
need to keep that question running, you know, always, and say, well, why am I doing this?
Yeah, exactly. To have all these, to have this, comment dire, exigence, je sais pas comment on dit, this ambition in your mind every time, even if we can feel the ego or the me coming back sometimes. But as you say, for me is I mean, you didn't say, but I heard this word, like it's almost like a re-education. We need to re-educate ourselves to this way of feeling, of the way of being free, and re-education, or changing the education system. For me, really, also you talked about a lot about school education. Oh, it's so dark here, and to me, it's okay. It's one of the possibility to cultivate this inner free will. Of course, it's an inner work, spiritual work, and I cannot help to think about the education system to be totally rebuilt, to totally destroyed, and starts from scratch with another view, because now it's just it doesn't work, because we're perpetuating this view. This is a wrong view. We didn't go in the right direction for now, and we need to definitely work on the spiritual way as adults. But for kids, I think about the kids now. I think about their definition, about their way to feel free. And I hope that in this terrible pandemic situation, maybe the kids that are in school and still taught to be the first one, to have the best grade, to be the first, they will realize, oh, it doesn't match, or there's something wrong. Okay, it's good to be the first. It feels good to be proud of your grade. But definitely this world now, we're going to switch, and maybe as adults, they will create something new, where we talk about the relation. That's the only thing left that they have, to be with people, because I see some people, some students in school, they are depressed. Obviously, they are depressed in front of their Zoom class. Something is dying inside of them. They will create another world, I hope, but that's very sad that they will create maybe another world from this difficulty, not because we as adults built the right school for them to evolve in a nice way and to learn and enjoy this relationship with the nature and this relationship with others.
Well, yeah, I mean, we, watched this documentary that I sent you on school system, and definitely the system is not designed to produce healthy, mentally, emotionally, bodily adults. It's designed to produce workers for the system, people that will fit in the boxes of the system so they can produce for the system, and in exchange maybe receive some kind of compensation. So we are taking away spontaneity, dreams, the magic that flows in children. The children are so capable of seeing a very different world. So we're taking that away by telling them it has no value. This is just dreams. This is just, you're getting lost into a fantasy world, and we're forcing them into a box that's basically the beginning of their restriction of freedoms. We're selling it as this is more freedom, because you're going to get bigger diplomas, you're going to get more money, you're going to get a bigger job. So it is sold as an invitation to more freedom, while in fact, what it's doing is going to take your freedom away, your capacity to think, your capacity to really be autonomous in your decisions, not based on the system, but based on what you really feel in your heart. And then at the same time, it's putting in your brain all the traumas and the ideas of colonizations and a certain Western way of thinking.
Domination.
That has created so much damage on nature, on each other's, We know
already. So that's why we all know that. So I know that there are so many new alternative schools and new way of the pedagogy. It's evolving, but I would like it to be faster. But at the same time, some education systems are nourishing this world that we don't want to leave, because it was so comfortable, and it's hard to break free from this whole civilization that we built. So
yeah, I mean, the system will resist in the same way that our ego and our mind resist change. It's just a reflection of it. you know, the way of the heart is a bit more silent sometimes. It can take a long time before we hear it, before we respond to it.
Oh, yeah.
And might take us on our knees for us to really make great changes. And I see that as the exact same process on the collective. The collective will only make those changes until everybody's on their knees and everybody realizes that the system is there. So that inner process is reflected in our institutions, in our education system, in our economical system, you know, in the way we run countries, we make laws and all of that. You can see it everywhere. It's trying to survive, knowing it is dying, knowing it is not the answer. So there's great forces, you know, on both sides that are at work and are both needed. I believe that collapse is needed to really realize, you know, what's not working. Like you need to fall on your knees to really realize, oh my God, I need to get out of this. I need to change something in my life.
Yeah, I really like when you said this image, to be on your knees, and that we need everyone to be on their knees, because there were already so many people on their knees. But we didn't see it because we were like doing, but now even the other supposedly superior, supposedly privileged, they're getting on their knees and like, no, I want to be free. But it's not a question. Fall on your knees, you're going to fall. We're all going to fall, and we're going to have the opportunity to be reborn after that. But that's a pity that we have to reach this point. But there were so many people reaching before us, or before us, what it is us. But definitely, I feel what you're saying,
and it's a very, you know, there's something in shamanic world or in a spiritual world, you know, this is an invitation to the descent, which is a feminine archetype. I'm descending into the earth. I'm getting my knees on the earth. It's very feminine, and our system, as we know, is about growth, rising. Ascension, more money, you know, taller and taller buildings, you know, just a stock market going up. It's a very masculine archetype, that rising. And so you can see that even that colonized mind has invaded the spiritual community that just want to ascend or transcend.
Ascension,
Nobody wants to descend. You know, it's very rare that people say the way is the descent. The way is down, down, down. And then maybe when I completely collapse there, when I've met the darkest part of my soul, the darkest shadows, maybe that's where God is. Maybe that's where the transformation is. But you can see that these 5D things, you know, people say, oh, let's go 5D or 7D. That's technology world that has invaded spirituality. Those technological terms. You can see how it has colonized even that, you know. And the earth is here in 3D, perfectly alive and waiting for us to come down on our knees on this land where we are, to feel the traumas of the First Nation people that have died on this land that I'm on, to feel, you know, what's really happening here. And she kind of got us, you know, more of us on our knees. And maybe, you know, we fell on our knees because we're really upset we can't travel, or we have to wear a mask, or whatever it is. It doesn't really matter how you're going to get there. But as long as you resist the bigger message there, which is about really looking at how we are in relations, we might resist it for a longer time. And we might use either our money to escape it or even our spiritual ways to escape it. It doesn't matter. Whatever I'm going to prevent to feel the pain, to feel the grief, the sorrow.
Yeah, because it's hard to go for this. Okay, go there. But I'm scared. When I also listen to you, I think about this parable. I forgot exactly which one it is, but in the Bible it says, "Go empty yourself." You empty yourself. Go empty. Get empty, and then something else will happen. But it's opposite now. Full up your fridge, full up your bank account, full up. We're doing exactly the opposite. But going empty is going. It's exactly like you say, humbling. Going to the earth, like on your knees. You know, I had this image when I listened to what you just said. about going on your knees and to the earth. I love to sleep on the floor. And some people say, why on the floor? It's hard. It's painful. You have a bed. They say, I know I have a bed, but I actually like to be on the floor, you know, and even in the garden, in the yard, to be on the, and I actually sleep very good. And why is it this idea that you need a heavy, like fit mattress? Okay, it's maybe hard at some point, but I feel the earth. I feel the earth. I feel alive. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that I want simplicity, no bed, no fridge, no kitchen. I'm not going anti-consumerism, but when I do that, being on the floor with no blanket and everything, I'm doing like this exercise of going empty, like this simplicity, this humility, because humility comes from humus, which is the soil. When we say
which is, you know, it's interesting because it made me think when you go to more traditional societies, they don't build a floor in the house. They build walls and a roof. But the bare floor, the bare land is always present. Either you go in the Amazon or, you know, I was in Nepal for a long time. You go into those beautiful houses, but the ground floor is the soil. There's not like a wood floor or concrete or anything. So it's interesting because those cultures obviously are much more connected to the land, and they've somehow learned that they need to stay in direct contact with the mother, with the earth. Yeah. They need to remember that we're connected to her and we depend on her. So that's I've never thought of that. So yeah, that's a beautiful way of looking at it. I like that.
Yeah, you're not cut. You come home inside, but you're still connected to the earth. Same thing in Madagascar in the traditional house. Obviously, it's the red soil, and inside, same.
Yeah.
Guillaume, it's beautiful. It makes me think. Oh, well, my brain is boiling now. My brain is boiling.
I told you it's a weak conversation, at least.
It's a weak conversation.
There's a book. Definitely. There's a book right there.
There's a book. There's a big book, a thick one, and now, okay, we actually passed the 45 minutes. We ended up with the earth inside the home. Let's break the carpet and let's go back to the original.
And it's interesting that she's calling us at the end, because I think she's reminding us that at the end of the day, that's where we're going. So however free we are in this life, at the end of the day, we're going to end up into the ground, buried under it. And we are going to be in relations, because all those little worms and bacteria and animals that live there are going to make their way into it. And my bones are going to become, you know, minerals that will be stone one day, or in the tears of an animal. So that's where it's going anyway. So am I really free there? You know, I'm not. But what am I going to do when I'm alive? What am I going to do to really experience this life in a beautiful way, you know, that is deeply caring and loving for myself and for others at the same time? So we're back to the earth, you know, we can't escape it. She just reminded us of that. There's no escape. She's laughing at our freedom as we're dancing on the ground.
Oh, yeah. Marv, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Angel, for this dialogue with you and this travel back home.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure. I had so much joy exchanging on the subject, and it was good to connect to you, sister. Much love to you and to your loved ones over there in France. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for watching this dialogue, and you can share it with your friends and your loved ones. And yes, let's keep going. Let's keep dialoguing.
Amen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye. Au revoir.
Bye.